Okay, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to Tanya Outside In. It's the second part of the introduction to the new round of Tanya that we're doing inside the text. But this is a standalone class. I've called it Tanya. I called it Tanya on one leg, but I had Chawath. It should be called Tanya Al Regal Achas. Miramis to the famous Gemara where the Ger, where the Goy Ger, whatever, asked Hillel and Shammai to teach him the entire Torah, Al Regal Achas. What we're going to try and do, B'ezrat Hashem, is an extremely ambitious project, but we're going to try and go through the entire. That's not a cool picture. Sorry. Try and go through the entire. Is there a way of getting rid of that picture? How do we do that? Can we ask this person to come back with a different picture? Is that okay? I'll remove them, so I hope they change their picture and come back and not take offense. The goal is to go through. I'm going to tell you the truth. I said 5 concepts, yeah?
Thank you, guys.
But the thing is that it was before I had actually worked out the concept. But this is a very deep point, a very important point. I could have said any number because really Tanya is one concept and it just depends where you want to cut it. So I could have given you one concept. I could have given you 5, 10, 20, 100 concepts. So see, when you teach, I learned a very important lesson one time is that the goal of a teacher is you should say what you're going to say it, and then say it again. Okay? But we're not going to do that. We're going to go through a bunch of ideas, dozens of deep, very important ideas that each one could completely revolutionize your life. And we're not going to dwell on them at all. And by the end of the class, you'll be lucky, unless you take notes, you'll be lucky if you remember anything, okay? But the goal is just to show you, like, just what is in this insane book, this absolutely unbelievable piece of, I don't even know what to call it, but that's the goal. Okay, so let's jump in. So everybody's probably familiar with the fact that the Tanya discusses the idea of the Benoni and the Russia, yeah? And what everybody tries to do, oh no, people aren't. Okay, so a lot of people are familiar with that idea that the Tanya discusses what is a Tzaddik, what is a Benoni, and what is a Russia. And what everyone tries to do is we try and box ourselves. We try, am I this, am I that, is he this, is he that? That's not what the Tanya is using these 3 personalities for. The Tanya uses these 3 personalities as a springboard to explain all of Yiddishkeit. They are not people. The Tzaddik V'Tovlo, the Tzaddik V'Ra'aloi, the Benoni, the Rasha V'Tovlo, the Rasha V'Ra'aloi, yeah, are not people. They are internal Jewish experiences. And as we go through the Sefer and we get things clearer and clearer, we'll start to see how that plays out, especially how those experiences play out in our lives as well. Okay, but just that's a very important heads up to know when we're going into the Sefer is we're going to be spending a lot of time using those words Tzaddik, Benoni, and Rasha. And it's very important to keep in mind that we can cycle through each one of those experiences on a daily basis, even on an hourly basis. It's not talking about people. It's a much, much more sophisticated model. Okay, that isn't even a concept. That was just a heads up. Okay. B'ezrat Hashem should be zoicha to do this. I think the central message of Sefer Tanya is what we're going to call avodah lishma. In fact, if anybody has a piece of paper, if people are writing stuff, I'm going to give you the five topics the 5 concepts that we're going to discuss. I'll say them in Hebrew, then I'll give you the translation as well. Number 1, avodah lishma. Number 2, moyach sholet ala leiv. Number 3, koiches nefesh. I'm going to say it again. Number 4, masiras nefesh. Number 5, dir b'tachtonim. Okay, so avoida lishma means selfless service, service for its sake. Okay, moyach shola alalev translates as the brain rules over the heart. That's another massive concept, not as big as avoida lishma. The third one is koiches and nefesh, structure and mechanics of the soul. Number 4, Mesiras Nefesh, which translates as self-sacrifice. And number 5, Dir B'tachtonim, means a dwelling in the lower realms, talking about a dwelling place for God in the lower realms. Okay, so we've got Avoid Lishma, Moshe Alalev, Koiches Nefesh, Mesiras Nefesh, Dir B'tachtonim. Okay, I would go out on a limb to say that the entire message of the Sefer Tanya is to move you into a selfless divine service. We can say like this, the Tanya, although it can help people who aren't in any way connected, but the Tanya was primarily written for Yidden who were connected, Yidden who were being shomer Torah mitzvahs, but they just didn't see it coming together, probably like most of us here. Yeah, you're doing it, you're from, you're shomer Shabbos, you're shomer Torah mitzvahs, you do it, yeah, and you're probably not going to not do it, but you're just a bit confused about what is it that I'm doing. Yeah, the Tanya's coming to try and resolve that question, trying to give you a cohesive big picture of what Hashem is, what Torah is. I just call it Yiddishkeit. That's my word for the whole thing. I never use the word Judaism, yeah, but Yiddishkeit, which includes what is Hashem, what is Torah, what is mitzvahs, what is a Yid, what is the avodah of the Yid, what is the Goy, what is the connection between all of this, etc., etc. Okay, so the way I explain this is the Tanya's trying to move us from the child who wants to bring his father the slippers to the child who wants his father to have the slippers. Now that might sound just like semantics, but I assure you that is far from semantics. The child who wants to bring his father the slippers is concerned about his avodah. I want to bring my dad the slippers. The child who's concerned about his father having the slippers is it's a quantum difference. It means that child's perspective is on his father. Just a very practical difference would be that the kid who wants to bring his father the slippers, if his brother brought him the slippers, he would actually be quite upset. Whereas the kid whose perspective is from his father, if his brother brings him the slippers, it would be the same simcha as if he brought him the slippers. That's really the goal of Yiddishkeit, is to get our mind to move our perspective to a godly perspective, to see the world through God's eyes, which is really the only truth. Yeah, Yisachar.
Could you say the second child? Bring us from the child who wants to bring his father the slippers to the child that
wants his father to have the slippers, meaning his perspective has moved from an egocentric I am God perspective to you call it a theocentric, God is God, and I'm a detail in his reality. The child who wants to bring his father the slippers, to him, the father is a detail in his reality. The child who wants his father to have the slippers, he is a detail in his father's reality. Everyone heard the difference there? That's a big difference. Yeah, Mayor.
Couldn't you see it the other way also, though, that the child that wants the father to have slippers says it's not my achrayus. I'd like him to have the slippers, but whatever. But the child that wants to bring the slippers is saying that I'm taking it upon myself.
You can't say that, Mayor, because if the child genuinely wants his child to have the slippers, he will look at his hands and say, wow, these are available to get my father the slippers. Quick, let's get to work. There's no question.
I understand. But lahavdil, to compare this to, let's say, a basketball team, right? So the ideal that you're stating is that nobody's trying to get the covet of having more points than anybody else. We just want the team to win, as opposed to the person that's saying that, I want to score a lot of points. But you could also say that any role player just sits there and says, you know what, I'm going to pass the ball, and someone else can take the last shot. Whereas the star is going to say, we're gonna make this team win. I'm going to make this team win no matter what it takes, and they're going to bring it upon themselves.
Well, I mean that's not the correct. That's not what we're saying. But that we're saying the perspective is that when he sees himself as a detail in Hashem's reality, he's going to do everything that is available to him to make that happen at the same time. Just if somebody else makes it happen, there's no difference. It's a completely different perspective as I want to serve. I want him to be served, and I'm part of that klal, so I'm not going to take myself out of the klal, and that's going to be my first thought of my first what's the word? My first
priority.
Sorry?
Priority.
My first call of action is going to be what I can personally do. But again, when I bring my father the slippers, I'm not going to be reveling in the fact that I bought my father the slippers. It's going to be the same simcha as my brother who bought him the slippers. That's the idea. I also just want to say, I'm going to be quite abrupt. I want you to ask questions, but if I cut the question before you finished, I'm going to be quite abrupt just because there's so much to get through so please excuse my manners. I'm not usually so abrupt, but but yeah. Okay. Now this means, and this is a tremendous difference in Tanya. The Tanya spends 10 chapters at the end of the Sefer going through all the loves and fears, all the divine love and all the divine fear. He doesn't mention not in those 10 chapters, in the entire Sefer, the concept of schar and oynesh, which is an amazing paradigm shift. Because until I touched Sefer Tanya, I didn't even know there was another option. I always knew of the Mishnah that says don't serve him for reward, but Lemaisa, when you know the Ramchal, etc., it's all about earning olam haba. The Tanya moves us away from that completely. He mentions the concept of oynesh, and there is oynesh 100%, and there's schar as well. He mentions it a couple of times. But the idea of serving for that reason in the Tanya is, I don't want to say it's treif, but it's definitely not something that we're aspiring to. And in this generation, this is one of the most important things, in this generation, where Hashem has taken away the concept of the melech, there is no concept of the fear of the melech. Yeah, Hashem did that on purpose. He has also given us more tanugim. We experience more pleasure on any given Shabbos afternoon than our great grandparents did their entire life. So we don't particularly care about pleasure anymore, in a real way, in a way that motivates us. And we're definitely not scared by much as well. So reward and punishment in two ways. Number one, it doesn't really motivate us anymore. And number two, it ends up as an actual selfish service. If I'm serving to earn myself olam haba, then who's the center of my universe? If I could get to olam haba another way without having to give God these mitzvahs and not do these variables, I'll do that. But unfortunately, he set up the system where I can serve myself. The only way I can do that is by doing the Torah and mitzvahs. So I suppose I'm kind of stuck. That's really what a service of fear of punishment and love of reward actually is. It's a self-service. It's not a divine service. It's a self-service. In the words of Rav Noach Weinberg, if the devil would pay more, yeah. Okay, so when we're talking about the idea of selfless service, and this really I think is how we could summarize the entire Tanya, we have to make a massive difference, a massive not duggish. We have to make a big we have to emphasize this concept called ends and means to ends. everything in this world and everything in our world breaks down into the concept of ends and means to ends. Ends are something we do for themselves. They are an end unto themselves. And means to ends means we're doing something as a means to an end. Now, when I'm serving God for reward, what is my service? It's a means to an end. The end is the reward. Anybody here who's been through the shiurim in the past, what's the technical term? How do we speak about means to an end and end in what are the technical terms in Tanya we use for those words? What's the technical term for means to an end in Tanya? Which is going to be a little bit scary once we say it.
Mutter or rishus?
Okay, but that wasn't the word I was looking for. The word is klipa. Klipa is a means to an end. Klipa meaning the peel of the peel of the husk or the shell of an egg. It has no intrinsic value. When you want to eat the egg, you throw away the shell. That's called a means to an end. So when our service is for reward, that service is klipadik. That service becomes a means to an end. The end being me. I'm the end. My reward. That's the end. That's very destructive. And this birur, this has a birur.
Clarification.
Thank you. This clarification. I have a friend sitting with me he doesn't have a computer, he's just next to me learning. My dear friend Eliezer Kosman. So we need to clarify in the world, we need to clarify in our lives what are ends and what are means to ends. Our children are ends. Our wife is an end. Our car is a means to an end. Our house is a means to an end. You're right. We need to draft the things that are means to an end. We need to draft them into mitzvah ends. When a means to an end becomes an end unto itself, we've fallen off the boat. We can put ourselves back on. But when we get confused, when the children become a means to an end, whether it's to vicariously live our life that we never led, or to get nachas, or when our children become something that we want something from, that's wrong. They become a means to an end. When they're really an end, we are looking to do for our children, not to receive from our children. And the same with our wife. Yeah, sorry, Adam, yeah.
I know this might be a big question, but so how do we understand, thinking Mr. Sisharim, this idea that the purpose of life is to enjoy the pleasure of connecting?
Yeah, Adam, I'm going to cut you off. It's not going to, another time we'll have to discuss that. It's a perfect question for right now, but not for the, thank you, I'm sorry. Yeah, Jack.
Do you want me to save the question for the end, or should I just ask it now?
Ask it, if it's helpful, we'll answer it. If not, we won't.
I'm confused how isn't the relationship between a wife or a child just the means to an end for a relationship with Hashem to a degree?
That's a great question. And Liba de MS, that is true. But Hashem wants us to enjoy the relationship with our wife as an end unto itself. But in truth, there is no wife, there is no children, there's nothing, there's just the bonus shalom. So there is nothing else. Everything is a means to that end. But we're living in this world, and when we're living in this world, yeah, our wife is an end, our children are ends. Shachris is an end. Shachris is not something you're trying to get through to, just you have to get through it so you can go to work. Shachris is an end unto itself. Work, however, is a means to an end. The football game is a means to an end. Okay, so getting these things clear, yeah, that's a very big part of Tanya. Okay. Everyone's good. We're going to move on. I told you these are like you realize we're literally jumping from mountain to mountain to mountain. Yeah, I hope you're going to appreciate that, because the shiur is going to be climbing the mountain, experiencing the mountain, sitting on the mountain, digging into the mountain, lifting up the mountain. But this is, we're just skipping from mountain to mountain. Okay. Moach shole alalev. The mind rules over the heart. Okay, now this has two meanings in Sefer Tanya, and they're both very important. The first meaning, well, which is the first one? Yeah, the first one is that you can trump your behavior. We think that we are, what's the word? Not bound. We are like when we're addicted to something, we can't not do it. How do you say that?
Slave?
Sorry?
Compulsive.
Everyone knows,
Bound.
everyone knows what I'm talking about, yeah? But like you've got no option. You're about to press that button on the computer. You know that you shouldn't. Yeah, you're going to fall down a rabbit hole, whatever, or it could be much worse than a rabbit hole, yeah? And you feel like there's nothing you can do about that. That's how we feel. As we said many times, yeah, your friend jumps out from behind the computer and offers you $10,000 not to press that button. Yeah, you don't press the button. In fact, you won't be able to press the button. That's called moach shole alalev, meaning that if you are a normal, healthy person, and 90, I don't know, high 90+% of us are that, yeah, then you are in control. You just aren't making the correct cheshbon. Everyone's with me? That's the foundation. That's another foundation of Chabad Hasidus, of the Sefer Tanya, is that you are in control. You just haven't made the right cheshbon. The fact that you're still doing things, the fact that you still come home from work and eat like a behemoth gasa, and you go to bed feeling like you wish you just hadn't done that, and you wake up in the morning with a stomach ache and etc. Yeah, and it feels like there's just nothing you can do about it. There is something you can do about it. You just haven't made the right cheshbon. You just haven't worked it out through properly. Okay, so that's the first madrega of moach shole alalev, means your mind is in control of your heart. Yeah, you can trump your heart. You can trump your heart. Now that's called ratzon. It's called the ratzon shebemoichoi, the ratzon that's in the mind. Yeah, the mind trumps the heart, so to speak. I want to do this. Your mind says no. The answer is no. That's it. Simple as that. But then there's another madrega where the mind seduces the heart, where the mind convinces the heart. The mind gets the heart on its side. The mind isn't just saying no. The mind convinces the heart that this isn't the right way. And slowly but surely, the heart actually comes around to the point where you can't press the button. You just can't press the button. Not because some guy's offering you $10,000, just because you have gone through it so clearly and your mind has spoken in the language that that appeals to your heart, to the point where you have now, your moach is shole alalev, meaning your leiv has been changed. This is the difference between bad chinuch and good chinuch. It's not no chinuch. That's a different madrega. There's a concept of no chinuch, where the kids just do what they want. Yeah, bad chinuch is no, you won't, you can't, you're not allowed. Yeah, which is, when I say bad chinuch, it's good in a way. But that's the lower level of chinuch. The higher level of chinuch is when you actually train your child. You actually raise your child. That's the word raise. To raise children means to raise your child. That's using the mind again. That, remember, in the moshel, the parents are the moach and the children are the leiv. But in what we're talking about here, moach alalev means two things. So number one, it means your mind is always able to trump your heart. You can always trump behavior. You don't have to do what you want to do. Okay, number one. Number two, given enough time and thinking about the right things in the right way, you can actually transform your heart. You can change your heart. That's moach shole alalev. Okay? That's concept number two. Again, we're going to spend hours and hours talking about these things. Bezrat Hashem. Okay, koiches and nefesh. It's such a chutzpah what we're doing. It's such a chutzpah. But we'll keep going. Okay, koiches and nefesh. What's a soul? See, a soul is, I mean, I always thought a soul was this like, kind of like, you know, Casper the Ghost. That was like my thought of a soul, like a fluffy kind of, you know, like, you can't see it, but it's kind of like a cloud kind of thing, you know, fluffy, like, you know, that's it's so specific. It's such it's dissected so mechanically, so meticulously by the Alter Rebbe, and it's just given it just changes everything when you understand how it works, how you work. Okay, so I'm going to say this very quickly again. This is you know, hundreds of hours of learning that we're going to say in a few minutes. Zvat Hashem. Yeah, Sacha.
What was the definition of koiches and nefesh?
Oh, we didn't. So we didn't. We did. Okay. Well, the translation.
Or just the literal? Sorry, yeah.
Translation is it's not really the translation, but what we're talking about is the structure and mechanics of the soul.
Thank you.
So the Rebbe introduces us to two souls. We're not going to discuss the difference between them, although it's very important. But actually, we will discuss slightly the difference between them, which provides us with the experience that we have as a Jew, which oscillates between godly and human. Okay, the struggle of the Jew is not to be human. It's not the struggle between being animal and human. The real struggle of the Jew is between being human and godly. Okay, the struggle of the nations is between animal and human. They're striving to be human. We're striving to be godly. To understand what that means is a lot of learning, but that's an important point. So we have two souls. Okay, we have a natural human soul, sometimes referred to as an animal soul, nefesh bahamis, which is shared by all human beings. And then there's the soul of the Jew, which makes the Jew Jewish, which is called a neshama. Okay, they have a similar structure. There are differences, which we're not going to talk about at all, but they have a similar structure, and this is the structure. The very root, you can't call it a part of the neshama, the very root of the soul, the essence of the soul is called pleasure, oineg. That is the motivating factor. That is what motivates us in either soul, pleasure. We are constantly striving for pleasure or to get rid of pain. It's the same thing. Okay, that is what is driving. That is what drives the soul. That is the soul. That is the soul. The soul could be pleasure. Okay, now pleasure, as it is, doesn't really do much. Just like enjoys itself. Pleasure becomes enclosed in ratzon, in will. That's like the pleasure going out. Okay? Now, ratzon trickles down and in fact is ordered, that's the best way of saying it. Ratzon, will, is ordered by seichel. What's seichel in Chabad? What's the three parts of the seichel in Chabad? Chochma, Bin, and Das, which is the acronym Chabad. Okay.
Mochen.
Mochen, yeah, seichel, mochen, yeah. So ratzon is ordered. That's a very important word here. Ratzon is ordered by seichel. Seichel is, as they say in Yiddish, mesader sein. Seichel is mesader. So ratzon gets ordered through seichel. Ratzon you could think of as just raw energy.
You mean ordered commanded or
No. Ordered as in besadered. Yeah, not commanded. Yeah, ordered. Yeah, good question. So ratzon gets ordered through seichel, through the Chochma, Bina, and Das. Now, Das is the faculty of the soul that identifies with any given idea. Identification means Identification means the merging of my sense of self with X. So you identified with your football team, yeah? Which means, let's say you identified with Manchester United. I don't know. Yeah. So if you're sitting in a bar and someone next to you is having a conversation and you hear them say Manchester United, what happens?
We're family.
It's as if, you know, this is a very deep point. It's as if someone called your name. If that's your team, if Manchester United is your team and you're in a bar and you hear the word Manchester United, you might as well have heard your name. You will turn around in the same way. That's identification. That's where you identify. So the faculty of das in the soul is the faculty that identifies with X. It's where you and X become merged with one another. Okay? Adam, yeah?
For us to understand right now, this concept of the seichel putting the ratzon in some type of order or configuration. I don't know what that means. Maybe I don't need to know what that means right now, but should I have a basic understanding of it?
So ratzon could be understood as like a raw energy, like electricity. Electricity could do anything. It could destroy if it's not being ordered and put into channels and kalim, yeah, it could destroy anything. That's what ratzon is. Ratzon is just pure energy. Now the seichel takes it, like we spoke about just before, when the seichel uses in its intelligence, it orders that energy just like a transformer, and it orders electricity and then allows it to be used productively in the air conditioner, in the oven, in the TV, etc. Not TV, whatever. Okay. So that's the idea. Again, that's a big topic. But now this is the important point, and this will take us into the fourth concept. When we identify with something, that means I have become involved. When it's in the mind, there's no me involved. 1 + 1 = 2, whether you're there or not. It's objective. Seichel intellect is objective. What about my love for you? Without me, there is no my love for you. My love for you only exists when there's me. So that's what das is. That's why das gives birth to emotion. Das gives birth to emotion because das is where me and the idea become bound up with each other. Now there's me invested in the idea. Now, do I like the idea or do I dislike the idea? Am I attracted to the idea or am I repulsed by the idea? That's love and fear, attraction towards or repulsion away. And that gives birth to, when I have emotions towards something, that has to manifest as, anyone has an answer for that one? Emotions manifest as, or you will feel stifled, behavior, thought, speech, and action. That's behavior. If you have deep emotions towards someone and you can't do something for them or think about them or speak to them, you will feel, what's the word? Not suppressed. I think that's the word. You will feel suppressed, or not. That's not the word. It's a better word.
Stifled is good.
Stifle's good. There's an even better word. Sorry. Okay. So now this is the structure of the structure of the soul. Oineg, okay, goes out through ratzon, will. Will is ordered through seichel, through intelligence. Seichel gives birth to emotion, avra and all its offshoots. And emotion becomes manifest as behavior, thought, speech, and action. Okay, I'll say it again, and then we'll move on. Oineg goes out through ratzon. Ratzon is ordered through seichel. Seichel it gives birth to emotion, and emotion expresses itself or is manifest as behavior. That's the structure of the soul. It's a very, and those parts break down into numerous parts as well. And again, we're going to spend hours and hours out ironing that out and getting that very clear. Okay. Everyone's clear? I told you it's going to be crazy intense. Yeah, you won't be able to say anything to anyone, but as long as you're just feeling the awe. But this is just like, this is not what our shiurim are about, but this is just like this is like taking mainlining awe right into straight into the arteries, and then you'll come down afterwards. Maybe you'll watch the tape again, whatever. Okay. Number 4, Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice. Okay, what's self-sacrifice? So I always talk about the example of William Wallace in that film Braveheart. Yeah, where he holds up his sword in front of all the chevra, and he says they can take our lives, but they cannot take our freedom. And he gave his life up for freedom. Is that Mesiras Nefesh? So it isn't Mesiras Nefesh. In fact, it's the opposite of Mesiras Nefesh. The Rebbe gives the example when the Rebbe's explaining Mesiras Nefesh, which is so central to Tanya. When the Rebbe's explaining Mesiras Nefesh, he gives the example of an unaffiliated secular Jew giving his life up for God. So the question is, why didn't he invoke the story of Rebbe Akiva or of any of the tzaddikim who gave up their lives in the past? Yeah, why did you have to go to a secular Jew? Listen to the godless of this, of what he taught us through this example. See, the tzaddik, yeah, the guy puts a gun to the tzaddik's head and says, "You're God or your life. Bow to this cross, or I will kill you. I'll torture you." And the tzaddik sits there and he thinks, right, I wake up in the morning, yeah, I say Moida Ani before I even touch my feet to the floor. Yeah, I grab my Nagelwasser next to my bed, careful not to put my feet on the floor, and I wash Nagelwasser, yeah. I stand up, I say Alna Tilis Yadayim, I go to the bathroom, I say Asher Yotza, I walk to the mikveh if you go to the mikveh, or I go to shul, I daven, I come back, I'm thinking, I eat a quick breakfast and I bench, yeah. I'm thinking about Shemiras Haloshen, I'm thinking about Tikkun Bris, I'm thinking about Shemiras Hanayim, I'm thinking, v'chule, yeah. The end of the day, I come back to it, I say Kriya Shema Lamita, I fall asleep on my left side, and I wake up and I do the whole thing all over again. And he says to himself, you know what? My religion or my life, if you take away my religion, then what's the point of being alive? I suppose you might as well just kill me. That's what the cheshbon would come out. Not that the tzaddik would say that, but you could think as an outsider that the tzaddik would be saying that. He'd be sitting there thinking, well, of course I'm going to give my life because Yiddishkeit is my life. So when the secular Jew decides to give up his life, now you have to really ask the question, what's going on there? What is Mesiras Nefesh? Why would he give up his life? The Tanya says that Al Roiv, I'm not sure if it's the same in this generation, but the majority of Jews, secular Jews as well, would give up their life when push comes to shove. If they got that ultimatum, Chaz v'shalom, they would give up their life. So how does that work? Because we see the guys in in Japan, or we've seen it over the past few weeks, we've seen people set fire to themselves in protest for their cause. They're so embittered by their cause that they actually killed themselves. They set fire to themselves. Yeah, you saw that, yeah? Crazy things. What's that about? That's identity. When a person identifies with something, let's say freedom, it's easy to talk about freedom, yeah? A person is identified with the concept of freedom to such a point where he and freedom are one. In fact, he is more freedom than he is his body. You can imagine such a thing. that a person gets so caught up in the concept of freedom and the ideology of freedom that he forgets to eat, he forgets to sleep. He's just so verkocht with his ideology, with his cause, that he just doesn't, his body is just very much by the way. Now, what happens when the opportunity comes, the opportunity arises that he can further his cause by giving up his body? That's called self-preservation, not self-sacrifice. The Tanya is predicated on this mystical, godly experience the Jew encounters, even the secular Jew encounters, when his relationship with God is tested. That's what Mesiras Nefesh in the Tanya is. It's a mystical, godly revelation. It's not to do with a cheshbon. It's not to do with some kind of evaluation. It makes sense for me to give up my life, because if I give up my life, my physical body, then my cause, being freedom, will be furthered. That's not what Jewish Mesiras Nefesh is. We're not going to talk what it is, but that's a very, very important point. That's a very important foundation of Tanya, is understanding the concept of Mesiras Nefesh. And it will answer up why some people, excuse me, has anybody ever done any research on what it means to climb a mountain? Has anybody seen what these people put themselves through?
Yep.
It's unbelievable. It's absolutely insane. Like, just before the pain starts, they don't change their clothes or wash for like 2 months. That's before the pain. That's just that's not even thought of. And they eat, they eat like powdered food for 2 months. Yeah. Then there's the frostbite. Then there's the insane headaches because the minus 50 degrees at night and 130 degrees in the day. And then there's the friends who fall down and die. And then it's just unbelievable. It's just amazing how people can do that. And you can't understand how that can be when you actually read what they go through. Understanding what we just spoke about is the key to that. And that opens up the possibility of understanding that being a big tzaddik doesn't necessarily have to look like someone going like that and doing all kinds of crazy, intense things. That's not the definition of a tzaddik. It might be that the tzaddik also does that, but there are people who operate like that. They're intense people in the world, and they're involved in serving themselves. That's not avodas Hashem. That's not self-sacrifice. So just that's one of the things that understanding this opens up to us. Okay.
We're saying the mountain climber is doing a ego-centered form of like false self-sacrifice?
By definition, it would be it's not a self-sacrifice, it's a self-preservation. Exactly. But what I'm saying in regards to our avodas Hashem is that we can see sometimes people who have a very impressive avodas Hashem. Yeah, that is not what being a tzaddik is. A tzaddik probably will have an impressive avodas Hashem, but a person could be having a very intense outward experience that looks very godly, when in fact it's actually involved in self-aggrandizement on a very subtle level. It could even be that he doesn't want honor from people. He shuns honor, but all the time he's giving himself more and more definition, more and more credibility. That's the opposite of self-sacrifice. Okay. And finally, which is really what this is all about, is called dir b'tachtonim. Dir b'tachtonim is the side of when we say b'yom hahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad. We finish davening every day, 3 times a day, by saying, when Hashem and His name will be one. What does that mean? That's understanding dir b'tachtonim, is understanding who He is and what His name is and what's the difference. The name Our name is an expression of who we are. It's not who we are. In fact, if there was no one else in the world, you wouldn't need a name. And in fact, if there was, I'm not going to say that's too complicated. If there was no one else in the world, you wouldn't need a name. Our name is for another. It's us going out. It's an expression of who we are. Yeah, Yisachar.
Sorry, was this concept number 5 we moved on to?
So yeah, concept number 5. Yeah, Dir B'Tachtonim. We're at the end. We're at the
Okay, and what does that stand for?
end. Dir B'Tachtonim translates as a dwelling in the lower realms,
Okay, thank you.
dwelling place. So, what's Hashem's ultimate expression of who He is His creation. That's the expression of who He is. And He wants to be in His creation. That's the idea of Galus and Geula. Okay? Again, I apologize for putting you guys through this, yeah, but again, these are all shiurim. Like I've been giving you complete shiurim in like 30 seconds. So again, this is another big one. What does it mean, Galus? What does it mean, Geula? Definition of Galus is when there is an interruption or a break between who you are and how you're expressing yourself. When your expression is not accurate, is not an accurate portrayal of who you are in Galus. That's writ small. Writ large, what's Galus Shechina? Galus Shechina means Hashem isn't Zoicha right now to be himself. He can't express himself. Why? Because his world is his expression, yeah? But Ratzon Hashem, that's what he wants. That's the Torah. When the world is being when the world is adhering to the laws of the Torah, that means Hashem is accurately expressing himself. Period. Just like when you meet an addict, someone who's addicted to a substance, yeah, and he hates it. He's smoking cigarettes and he's looking at the cigarette thinking, I hate you. I hate that I'm doing this. This is terrible. He's in Gullus. He doesn't want to be doing something. He's doing something. On the macro level, that is us doing Averas. See, Hashem expresses himself through his Torah. His Torah needs this world to be expressed through. If you don't have cows, you don't have tefillin. If you don't have wheat, you don't have chodosh and all the korbanos. If you don't have stone, you don't have a mizbeach. All of these things, all of this world is there for his expression to come through. So Kol Zman, the cows are not being used for tefillin and for meat on Shabbos and Yom Tov, and they're being used for energy for people to do bad stuff or cheeseburgers, v'chule, yeah? That means Hashem is not being able to express himself because the cow got made. The cow got designed and created that the Jew should wear tefillin. That's a big purpose of cows. That's one of their big functions in this world is you wearing tefillin. So if no one was wearing tefillin, then a cow wouldn't really be necessary. And Hashem would be wasting the energy that he's creating that cow for because his expression of himself is through tefillin. So I'm just going to say this very quickly and we'll finish. Let's talk about tefillin, yeah? So we say that we put on tefillin, yeah? I do the mitzvah of tefillin, yeah? But let's reframe it a little bit and try and talk about it from a Tanya perspective. if you learn Tanya deeply, you would stop saying, I put on tefillin. And you would start saying, and now we're going back to the beginning, this is tying the whole thing back together. You would start saying, I become a chelik, a part of the mitzvah. I'll explain. The mitzvah tefillin is composed of 4 criteria, let's say. It has a coordinate in time. You can only do it in the day, yeah, from sunrise to sunset. It has a coordinate in space. You can't wear tefillin in the bathroom. It has to be a clean place. It has a coordinate in matter. It's made of cowhide with parchment with ink in a certain configuration. And it has a chelik of energy. It needs to be worn by the Jew. It needs to be put on by the Jew. If any one of those 4 components are not according to the measurement, the mitzvah of tefillin was not accomplished. So, for example, if you put the tefillin on in the night and everything else is good, that's not Beseder. Wearing the tefillin in the bathroom, that's also not Beseder. If not tefillin, if you put on, I don't know, some kind of lacy kind of, pink leather strap around your arm, yeah, and an egg, I don't know, yeah, that also wouldn't be tefillin. And if a non-Jew put on tefillin, that wouldn't be tefillin. So now you do the mitzvah. You are an ingredient in the mitzvah. You're an ingredient in the mitzvah. And when those 4 coordinates come together in the exact configurations we just explained, and that would be for any mitzvah, you know what happens? Is a portal opens into this world. And the Rebbeinu Shalom goes, oh, thank God, and just pours himself into this world. That's what happens when a mitzvah takes place. The Rebbeinu Shalom goes, oh, Baruch Hashem. I can express myself. It's like when you take off those, you put on the tight shoes, or you're wearing like pants that are too tight, or you're wearing that big, heavy Hasidic coat, and you take it off, and you're like, oh, thank God. That's what Rebbeinu Shalom says every time a mitzvah is performed, that he now has access into his world. And that's the Dir B'Tachtonim. That's the Dir B'Tachtonim. So those, I think, in my humble opinion, are the 5 foundational pillars of the Tanya. And if anybody wants to sit there for a few hours, or maybe better would be once we've gone through the whole book and go back through these 5 ideas, you'll see how they're all the same thing. They're really all the same thing, which is what we mentioned at the end, which is it's the concept of what we call essence and name. Etzem and shame. What you are and how you express yourself. We've just talked about how they relate to each other. What is essence? What is shame? What if we get shame mixed up with essence mixed up with shame? How do they unite with each other? How do they separate from each other? That's all we were speaking about. So really the Tanya is a massive a massive, not explanation, better word than explanation.
Reminder.
Not reminder. No.
Guidepost.
Explanation of a treatment. It's an extensive treatment, an extremely extensive treatment of the concept of essence and name, of etzem and shame. And if we plug that back in, you'll see how, and just as a chizuk to finish on, if we get this concept clear, and it's not a quick thing to get this concept clear, but if we get it really, 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 really clear, then as you open up the Torah Kadosha, whether you're learning the Gemara, whether you're learning Kabbalah, or the Medrash, or Chumash, or Halacha, or Hasidus, or any chelik of Torah, as you open it up and your eyes fall upon the words, or as you hear your teacher or your friend speaking the words to you, or your child, very often when your child speaks the words to you, when you've been koine this concept of etzem and shame, of essence and name, these words start to, I described it last week like a popcorn machine. They produce fruit. They produce wonderful, delicious, sweet fruit. That's what happens. It's an amazing experience. It really is. Okay, shkoyach, thank you for bearing through that with me. Any questions? Feel free to duck out. I don't anyone.
Could you, Rebbe, could you say, finish your conclusion again? He said how all of this leads to etzem and shame, essence and name.
Well, really, essence and name is the foundational. It's the everything was just another nuance in that concept. We didn't get into it properly, but that concept, etzem and shame, that is Tanya. And everything else is a nuance, is a different perspective, is a new way of understanding, is a breakdown, is a section, etc. of that concept. That's how I really describe Tanya, is the treatment of the concept of essence and name on a micro level, macro level, etc.
Is that the same for other Hasidic masters and descendants of the Baal Shem Tov, or is that just for Tanya? Like, do all the other Hasidic masters, their magnum opus, does that equal a different concept, or is that also etzem and shame?
That's a great question, and I would hazard saying that this is what the Baal Shem Tov brought to the world. I'm not bucky enough in all of his Talmidim to know the ins and outs of their works, but
Okay.
what I understand is this is the Alter Rebbe's treatment of what Baal Shem Tov brought to the world.
Rebbe said at the beginning that maybe the primary concept of the five was avoda lishma. So are we going to eventually learn that avoda lishma essentially equals the etzem and shame aspect? Like those are basically two sides of the same coin?
I wouldn't necessarily say two sides of the same coin,
Okay.
but yeah, but understanding essence is the key to serving the person. The time Kozman, you're caught up in their name, which is things about them, you're really serving yourself. To serve the other has to be about their essence. So yes, it's exactly that, yeah.
Thanks.
Oh look, there's a picture of the Bavitcher Rebbe in the mayor's camera. That's great. Shkoyach. Okay, so hopefully this time next week, we'll get into the text. Shkoyach.
Okay.
Kultiv.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rebbe.
My pleasure, my pleasure.